Good morning. It is June 9th, 2023, and you may notice I'm wearing a Jim Tressel-like vest, though not quite the same colors, meaning I'm not exactly steaming with the heat here, folks. Whether the cloud cover or the smoke that's coming from Canada is impacting our temperatures or not, we'll definitely be on the cooler side. Online today, we got Dr. Dave Shetlar, Dr. Carr, and the imperturbable, and I murdered that, and inimitable Pamela Sherratt. Pamela, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. I thought you said incorrigible there for a moment. Good morning, everyone. So as Dr. Nangle said, it continues to be, it's cool. We're getting these nice cool evenings, but we still continue to be really dry. We had just shy of half an inch here in Columbus, well, certain neighborhoods of Columbus last weekend. But investigating in my yard this morning, our soils are dry as dust. So if you are not irrigating, soils are really dry right now. And even our deep-rooted turf grasses like tall fescue, and I have some here, it might be difficult to see with the filter on, but even those roots are very shallow at the moment. So wanted just to talk about some of the difference in turf grasses. As a turf team, we had a question from a homeowner in the south of Ohio this week about which grasses to use in hot and dry conditions. And, you know, maybe this is something we start to look at a bit more. Our most heat and drought tolerant of all of the turf grasses is, of course, Bermuda grass, but it is a southern grass. Now, I will tell you that I have Bermuda grass in my yard. I inherited a common Bermuda lawn when I moved in. So I just took some samples this morning. The rhizomes are, you know, a good 12 inches long. It's very aggressive and it does very well from June until October. And so I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to water it. It takes care of itself during the summer months, but it does go dormant from the end of October to May. And so I have this as a mix. I overseed my Bermuda grass with tall fescue, and it gives me a pretty decent drought and heat tolerant lawn that I do not have to water. I don't water my lawn at all during the year. And so I think some of these mixes might be worth investigating. The bluegrasses and the ryegrasses in irrigated turf right now or in semi-shaded turf are still hanging on there, still green. Most of the lawns in my neighborhood are still green that are bluegrass or ryegrass if they're in semi-shade or irrigated. I am seeing Hoa trivialis, rough bluegrass. So I know that Dr. Gardner was hoping to talk about this today and can't be here. And he may talk a little bit more about it next week too. But just walking around my yard this morning, even in the shaded areas, the rough bluegrass has completely checked out. It's completely dormant. And so rough bluegrass is a very shallow rooted perennial cool season grass. It has surface stolons and it has very shallow roots. And so it does really well in shady and wet conditions, but it doesn't like the heat of the summer. The problem with it is that in the fall, when the temperatures cool down again, it will come back. It goes into dormancy. It does not die. And unfortunately, we don't have a selective control for it. So usually it's a non-selective herbicide and try to reseed those areas. At this time of year, it's almost impossible to overseed anything. I wouldn't be out there buying sod or putting seed out right now with the temperature and the dryness the way it is. But in the fall, obviously have a plan to try and attack or repair some of those areas maybe that you've struggled with this summer. Finally, one thing I want to say about grasses is a question sometimes I get is, how do I know if my grass is dormant or dead? And so one of the things we do to check if you have a dormant grass that's gone brown and you are not sure, is it dormant, is it dead? If it's Kentucky bluegrass, it may just have gone dormant and it can stay dormant for several weeks. But what you're going to look for is right at the base, what we call the crown. You're going to look at those stems and you're going to check for moisture. And so you're going to see if they are hydrated. Chances are that it isn't dead, that it's just going dormant. Now, I will say usually if you allow your lawn or your turf grasses to go dormant, yes, they can rebound. And our advice has always been to let them go, unless you're planning on irrigating regularly, let them go dormant, and then when it rains or they come out of dormancy, because if you keep irrigating them and letting them go dry, they deplete the carbohydrates and it stresses them out even more. So I will say though that you usually get about 25% of weeds coming in each time in a dormant if you let them go dormant. And I've seen this on sports fields and grounds where the decision has been made to let them go dormant, but then those areas very quickly become infested with things that can survive the summer, like crabgrass and goosegrass, etc. So just something to think about. If you do allow them to go dormant, you probably should have some kind of plan for weed control also. Okay, and then I just wanted to mention again, the Ohio Sports Field Managers Association are having a field day at OSU Athletics on June 27th. Our wonderful Dr. Carr will be speaking about fertilizer programs for sports turf managers and also giving you an update on all the exciting research that we are doing right now at Ohio State. And then I think Dr. Gardner is also talking about a weed control programs, I think. So you get some pesticide credit. You get to meet our new faculty, Dr. Carr, and learn about all the exciting stuff that's happening at Ohio State. Get to mingle with your peers, you get to tour the OSU athletic facilities, and so we're really excited to put this program together. You can register through the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation. It's all over social media, or you can go to their website, or you can I don't know if there's a link. Maybe Dr. Carr can do this. I don't know if there's a link to something like that on our website right now, but we'll certainly be tweeting it out. So we hope to see you there. It's going to be a really fun day, and we hope to see you there. That's all I have. Thank you, Dr. Nangle.
Yes, Pam, there is a link under the events tab on buckeyeturf.osu.edu.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. All right, Dr. Shetlar, bug infestation.
Well, this super dry weather really hasn't done the bugs any service, other than it does appear that those golf courses that have the annual bluegrass weevil, it's progressing very well or begin to pupate, and you'll probably see the new adults coming out in the next week or so. For the lawn and sport turf, if you haven't seen any bill bug damage by now, it's probably not going to happen. I am seeing, I've been running my light trap for the last few nights, and the May-June beetles have stopped. The mast chafers haven't started, but I wouldn't expect them until mid-June. And for the last couple of years, we've seen our Japanese beetles coming out fairly late, like at the end of June. So haven't seen either one of those grub species yet. But with this drier weather, at least those that survived last fall should have successfully pupated and probably will come out. The only that seem to appreciate this, the caterpillars. So, and I'm getting a fair number of sod webworm adults in my light trap, and they'll be laying eggs. Apparently, when we have the wetter than normal conditions, their larvae get fungal diseases. And when we get drier weather, we don't see that. For those of you that are wondering about the armyworms, I am getting a few of the common armyworm, our native species, in the light trap, but nothing to be concerned about. And I've been monitoring my friends down in the Gulf states, and they haven't said much at all about the fall armyworm. So I don't think we're going to see another fall armyworm outbreak this year. We're probably clear for that. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing in the buggy world, in the turf grass. And you know, we'll just have to wait and see how this drought pans out and what it does to the caterpillar populations and the white grub populations. Thank
you, David. You sound absolutely disappointed and distraught that there's not destruction and damage ever.
I will put a pitch in. I am looking, if anybody did have some grub damage last year, of course, you're always at higher risk of having grub damage the following year, wherever you had some damage. I do have a couple of experiments. I've got some companies that are looking for me to do some white grub control studies, and I'm looking for some sites. The one that I've been using on a local golf course, I'm not too sure. I feel very confident that they're going to have many white grubs this year. So if you've got some, shoot me an email message at shetlar.1@osu.edu. Thank you.
Killing some grubs, killing some grubs, killing some grubs. All right, Dr. Carr.
All right. Pam mentioned that it is still dry out. And I'm looking out my office window right now, and there's a lot of dormant lawn area. Let me share this screen here, and we can look at the US Drought Monitor. This is drought.unl.edu. This is just the Midwestern US. And it's not letting me click, but we can see that most of Ohio here is under, has now entered moderate drought. Last week we were under abnormally dry conditions. And this, I mean, this makes sense with what we're seeing. But I think we may be able to alleviate some of this in the next week or so. If we look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, we're going to be near normal. Right now we're a little below normal, but we're going to be near normal. And that continues in the 8 to 14 day outlook. And then precipitation's going to be about normal. So around here, we typically will average about an inch of rainfall per month. We've been well below that. I mean, sorry, an inch of rainfall per week. So about 4 inches per month. We've been well below that this year, which has led to these drought conditions. So hopefully this weekend and early next week, we have this rainfall come through. Hopefully we'll get some long soaking rainfall so that water is able to infiltrate the soil and, you know, alleviate some of this drought stress. I know in some previous Turf Team Times episodes, I've talked about evapotranspiration and how those values are higher now than what they typically have been. So I just want to show you where I get this information from. So you can look at it on your own time. So the National Weather Service has this forecasted reference evapotranspiration database. And this, what we're looking at here is our total weekly ET that's forecasted from today through next Thursday. And so you can see different locations in the state where we are estimating a certain volume of water to be lost through evaporation and transpiration. Last week, these values were in the 1.8 to 1.9 range. So over the next week, we're expecting to lose about 25% less water from evapotranspiration than we did this past week that we've had this, and we're recording on June 9th. So if what this means for irrigation, and Dr. Dave Gardner talked about this last week, if you can understand and determine how much water your irrigation system is putting out, and we typically will calculate that in inches per hour, this can help you understand how much time you need to run your irrigation for to replace what's being lost from the atmosphere. So we would typically recommend for cool season grasses to apply 80% of what ET is. And so take that down to a per day standpoint, that'd be somewhere around 0.15 in the Cleveland area to 0.18 inches in the Cincinnati area. And Dr. Gardner mentioned this last week as well, that a lot of our soils can't infiltrate more than about 0.1 inches in any 0.1 inches in an hour. So you may have to split those irrigation cycles up to accommodate some of those lower infiltrating soils. So hopefully we're nearing the end of this short drought, and with some lower temperatures, maybe we'll get some recovery from this. I know that's it's been a weird start to the summer, and we're not even in full summer yet. So I'm gonna unshare my screen.
Dr. Carr, bringing good news. Less death and destruction. All right.
Yeah, so I guess I need to make sure I go last after Dave Gardner and Dave Shetlar every time now, so that there's less death and destruction.
Maybe. No.
Do we want the good news and do we want the bad news or the good news first? I mean, we can
I
play
think for
that game.
our lawn care friends, they might want the bad news first, right? That's called revenue generation. The homeowners maybe, I want the good news. So it depends on the side that you come from. All right, Dr. Gardner is getting aerated in an airplane. So he will not be joining us today, but he did mention that he had a couple of emails this week about a specific weed. And interestingly enough, and folks, I just check you're seeing the screen here properly. Yes. Thank you. Yes, okay. Broadleaf helleborine, weedy orchid that's invading lawns and flower beds. And he had a couple of emails this week about it. Interestingly, it is part of the Orchidaceae family, and it's called a weedy orchid. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, this is a real pain. I believe some of my extension compatriots call it volunteer weed, and for a common name, it definitely volunteers in a lot of places to show up. But you will see it in flower beds. It will emerge, probably, I've seen it mainly in May. And then it really starts to continue to appear through the rest of the summer. Now, it will produce some of those orchid-like flowers, very pretty, blah, 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 but it can be very invasive. And from personal experience, pulling this out does not work. At best, you're going to snap off the stem from the rhizome. You're not getting a rhizome up if you're pulling it out by hand, and it will grow back. So the one thing that Dr. Gardner wanted to do was emphasize the fact that you're going to use sulfentrazone, which you may know more as a killer for nutsedges on this. Now, the best approach for management is cut your lawn, basically open up that vascular tissue through the cutting effect, and then apply the product directly to the festering plant material. There is an excellent piece of documentation that I'm showing you here. It's on Michigan State's website, and you know, that's terrible. I'm sure the Ohio State administration are saying you can't promote Michigan State, but we're talking with our friends and we're all good here, so don't worry about that. But they have a very nice document on the background of it, and this is a terrestrial orchid, and it's invading from the north. Of interest. Normally, we wouldn't associate those types of things with orchids, but it's one that for sure I'm seeing it in the Cleveland area because in my backyard and in the beds in there, and it's irritating the hell out of me every year. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. Dave also apologizes to the first person who emailed because he misidentified it. So he said and followed up with the information as I've shown you. And if there are further questions, feel free to reach out to him. On top of that, for those of you who are missing out on or wondering why there's no information on the Northeast Ohio Lawn Care Field Day, which would traditionally occur in the next couple of weeks, the date has been moved to the second Monday in August. So keep an eye out for information on that. That is going to be up at the Worcester campus, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Carr and Dr. Shetlar will be available, and we'll have some other speakers in there as well. With that, Dr. Carr, you want to share your screen with the contact details? All right, so podcast, Turf Team Times, and then the various Twitter feeds. And then, of course, as the emails have started to increase, buckeyeturf@osu.edu is the place that you can reach out. And for those of you who are wondering why we're so condensed this week, you know, sometimes people in academia can shut up. So we will cut it short and say it's been emotional, and we will see you all next week after rainfall, and we'll be doing a little dance of joy. Thank you.